Out to be feisty with both candidates talking over each other.
The opponent lives in the world of fiction. I live in the world of fact. Can you stop interrupting? Can you stop interrupting?
Can you stop lying?
Yeah.
He wants to be the greatest president, and he knows that he can't be the greatest president without the acceptance of the black community. But we're going to have to speak to him.
This is the actual Fountain of Youth. Well, here goes nothing. What's up?
It's August 30th, y'all. It is August 30th, the end of August.
Oh, gosh.
Guess Labor Day's coming up.
Ainsley's back.
I am back. I was on vacation, so I'm in a great mood.
Right, for a change. Usually, as you know, Ed, it's
pretty ugly early in the morning.
It really is.
It's great to be here with you.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back.
We missed you, and I'm
Thank
glad you burned all your vacation days, so now you got to start working through Christmas.
Right through the midterm.
Now I work for you. When are you taking yours?
You know what? America needs me, so there's going to be no vacation.
Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, Ed's playing the role of Steve, and meanwhile, last night it lasted an hour. It was at Hofstra University, and I hear it was about 69 degrees and indoors, much to Cynthia Nixon's dismay.
She wanted it 76.
Yeah, 76 degrees.
They can't agree on anything.
That's what you always want.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. I think that might be the only thing I agree with her on, but we like it hot. All right, so Andrew Cuomo, he's running against Cynthia Nixon for the Democratic primary on September 13th. We're, just about 2 weeks away from that. They had their big debate last night. She challenged him to that a few weeks ago, and they debated each other. It was very heated, and they traded some personal barbs.
Yeah, and Cynthia Nixon, remember, this has been a race to the left, and she's been pulling the governor further and further left. And weeks ago, she called ICE a terror organization, basically, which drew a lot of scorn from people saying this is not fair for people who are trying, these ICE agents who are trying to enforce our immigration laws. Well, Governor Cuomo seemed to want to go even further left last night. Watch.
New York State is the state that is suing Donald Trump for ripping babies from the arms of their mother. New York State is the state that says we will not cooperate with ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. He politicized ICE. They're a bunch of thugs. We said we will sue them if they violate any criminal laws in the state of New York.
Think about this guy. He's talking about law enforcement. He's calling law enforcement a bunch of thugs, hired to protect us. Tom Homan's going to be up in a little while, former ICE director, to respond to that. Are they indeed a bunch of thugs? That was also Border Patrol. It wasn't even ICE. Right. And that was put forward, it looks like, by Attorney General Sessions, not even Donald Trump. And now you talk about Governor Cuomo, who says to himself, I'm only up by 20 points. Why don't I just go fly into the left and try to act more severe and more extreme than my opponent?
Yeah, because I don't ever remember him ever being this extreme and talking about ICE like this and calling them thugs until Cynthia Nixon, who he's running against, starts saying, let's abolish ICE, let's abolish ICE. And then Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wins in the New York area. She's the socialist, also saying that we need to abolish ICE. He's also the one, don't forget, that said America has never been great. Is that his quote?
Yeah,
It's never been
never
great.
great.
Never great.
Yeah, never that great.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
And he had to clean it up. Took him several days.
I don't think he's ever going to clean it up personally.
Right. And on top of that, in this debate last night, he basically took himself out of the 2020 running, saying, I'm going to focus on being governor if I'm reelected, which not a lot of people buy, number one. But number two, right after saying that, he spends the rest of the debate talking about Donald Trump as if he is getting ready for 2020. So does anyone believe him?
They asked him, they said, do you promise to stay governor for 4 years if you're elected? And the crowd listens and he says, I will, unless, and then the crowd's like, what? Is he going to run for president? And then he said, unless, the good Lord takes me.
Death.
Right, exactly, before my term is over.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour. There's a lot of intrigue. Well, that might be a distant race. There's one that's getting a lot of intrigue and a lot of interest, and that is Florida, where Congressman Ron DeSantis, with the backing of the president, gets a convincing primary win, and he's going against an opponent that's quite different than him, a 39-year-old mayor from Tallahassee, first African-American nominee to run for governor and get this far. And right away, Ron DeSantis says, we're very different when it comes to abolishing ICE. We're very different when it comes to raising taxes. I'm not into that. We're very different when it comes to socialized medicine. He wants to give everybody free health care.
Right, and then, but immediately everyone's talking about how this is going to be nationalized. You got Gillum, who's backed by George Soros. He's backed by Bernie Sanders.
Tom Steyer.
Cortez. Tom Steyer put money into the primary. He won against the odds, and so people are saying you've got a Trump ally, you've got a Bernie Sanders ally. There's going to be a national race, and immediately controversy for Ron DeSantis because he comes on Fox yesterday morning, and basically, yes, he's talking about the socialist policies of Andrew Gillum and trying to have a clear difference, trying to show sharp lines there on policy, but he kind of stepped in it because he used a word that suggested to some that he was talking about race. Watch.
We've got to work hard to make sure that we continue Florida going in a good direction. Let's build off the success we've had on Governor Scott. The last thing we need to do is to monkey this up by trying to embrace a socialist agenda with huge tax increases and bankrupting the state.
So warning Floridians not to monkey this up by selecting a socialist agenda. People did say some of the headlines were calling him a racist. He was on with Sean Hannity last night to clarify. Listen.
It has zero to do with race, Sean. It has everything to do with whether we want Florida to continue to go in a good direction. I'm not going to let the Democrats and Andrew Gillum try to obscure a debate about whether his tax increases, his single-payer health care plan, his desire to abolish ICE, whether that is something that's acceptable for Florida. I don't think it is, and I don't care what color you are.
And now people are saying, wow, it's a dog whistle. This is a race. And Andrew Gillum says, hey, you know what? This is a dog whistle. It's a bullhorn. I actually don't think if you hear those remarks, you don't think for a second, if you know Congressman DeSantis and his background, you don't think for a second that he's racist, nor do you think that it's a dog whistle. I wouldn't think that anyone would come to that conclusion unless people saw that as a political opportunity to label him a certain way.
And in fact, Tuesday night, DeSantis was on with Laura Ingraham saying about the same exact thing without the monkey it up comment, was talking about we don't want Florida to become Venezuela. Again, all about socialist policies. It seems like he slipped up by using that word, though. You've got to be more careful if you're running for governor in any state, but especially a high-profile one like Florida, where this race is front and center right away. But on the other hand, you listen to Christopher Harris. He's on with Tucker last night, and he says, no matter what happens, it seems like the left wants to turn everything into a fight about race. Watch.
That's why they're using things like going after candidate DeSantis and trying to say that a phrase that he used may have been inartful in his use, but when put in the proper context, it was not racist at all. And so what they're doing, they're ringing the bell. Basically, it's a Pavlovian response that they're expecting from black people in general to say, oh, my God, this guy's a racist. We should try to get rid of him. What happens is if you allow people like Mr. Gillum to get in office, here's what he wants to do. He wants to increase the corporate taxes on those black-owned businesses in general also by close to 50%. And so we need to address the things that are good for all of America.
And everyone that did an interview with Gillum yesterday, it's a great story. He's a charismatic guy, wonderful speaker. He out-earned it, got the support of two very rich, powerful people in Tom Steyer and George Soros. Okay, fine. Congratulations on doing that. But in reality, he wants to abolish ICE, raise the corporate tax up to 40%. He wants socialized medicine. It's going to dramatically change what Florida actually does, and they are a success story. They have people flooding into that state that has zero state taxes at a record rate.
By the way.
So to me, you would see the policy, the gubernatorial candidate that was going to be successful would want to continue what Governor Scott's doing. On the surface, DeSantis has the right message.
As mayor of Tallahassee, by the way, the FBI is investigating his office and how they dole out infrastructure money. There's a lobbyist that's in trouble on this. There's been subpoenas, thousands of documents.
Costa Rica trip, the controversy
that he took with the lobbyist. He says, well, I paid for my way. But the bottom line is the media is not largely talking about that. And so I think Gillum's record eventually is going to be front and center.
It was a shock, though, that he won, right? Because he's so progressive.
Gwen Graham, a daughter of the former senator and governor Bob Graham, was the front runner, expected to be the establishment Democrat. He was vastly outspent, as Brian suggested. Sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, you had another candidate, the former Phil Levine, the former mayor of Miami, also
very successful.
So is this better for DeSantis? Better for DeSantis to have someone so far left?
It might be better for him to have somebody that is clearly defined on the left versus a Trump ally, as opposed to a centrist Democrat like Graham. It would have been harder for DeSantis. So he's got to clean up this remark. He's going to focus more on the sort of socialist policy policies that you talked about. But you just got to be more careful because nobody believes that this was his intent. But when you're running for governor, you know, everyone's going to be watching your words.
Everything. And the president's already weighing in on that. Meanwhile, let's weigh in and find out what Jillian's up to. What's on your mind, Jillian?
Oh, you know, just a little bit here, a little bit there. Okay. Nothing too much. We are following some news, though, that we want to get you guys caught up on, starting with this. John McCain leaving the state of Arizona for the final time today. The late senator's services continue with a memorial at the North Phoenix Baptist Church ahead of being flown to Joint Base Andrews so he can lie in state starting tomorrow at the Capitol in Washington, D.C. McCain's wife and daughter Megan weeping over his casket. Look at this as he lie in honor at the Arizona State Capitol. 15,000 people lining up in the 104-degree heat to pay their respects.
My hero can endure 5 years of torment. I can endure 3 or 4 hours of the heat.
His 2008 running mate and former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin is reportedly not invited to his funeral on Sunday. A murder suspect is waking up behind bars after police find the body of a missing boy on Long Island. Carlos Benitez Hernandez is accused of killing the unidentified teenager whose body was found in a shallow grave 1 year after he was last seen. Police believe the MS-13 gang is connected to the boy's death, but it's unclear if Hernandez is a member of that gang. President Trump says there's no reason to resume war games with South Korea after that North Korea summit between President Trump scrapped the military exercises with South Korea as a goodwill gesture. The president says he has a good relationship with Kim Jong-un and that the drills cost too much money. Just a few days ago, Trump canceled a planned visit to North Korea by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Londoners angry over that baby Trump blimp flown ahead of the president's UK visit for a plan for revenge. This 29-foot balloon of a bikini-clad London Mayor Sadiq Khan, complete with chest hair, look at that. Donors raising more than $60,000 to bring it to life. And here's the kicker. Khan must approve the balloon before it takes flight. Its creators say since he approved the Trump blimp, he must sign off on this one.
Oh.
So there you have it.
Yeah, the chest hair is an interesting
look right for that.
Yeah, we have no proof of that, right?
I don't want the proof.
No, we don't. Thank you, Jillian.
Yeah.
All right, 12 minutes after the hour.
All right, outrage growing nationwide after a judge clears and frees 3 suspected Muslim extremists who are accused of running a possible terror training camp for kids. We're live with the stunning decision out in New Mexico.
It's outrageous.
And the president lashing out at CNN for sticking by its Trump Tower story. CNN says they never lied, but Ari Fleischer says that might be a lie right there. He joins us next.
Proud to show you where I come from.
Well, President Trump blasting CNN for standing by its botched story about that 2016 meeting in Trump Tower, tweeting, quote, CNN is being torn apart from within based on their being caught in a major lie and refusing to admit the mistake. Sloppy Carl Bernstein, a man who lives in the past and thinks like a degenerate fool, making up story after story is being laughed at all over the country. Fake news. But CNN is standing by the report. Make no mistake, Mr. President, CNN does not lie. We report the news, and we report when people in power tell lies. CNN stands by our reporting and our reporters. There may be many fools in this story, but Carl Bernstein is not one of them. Here to react is Fox News contributor and former White House press secretary Ari Fleischer. Ari, great to see you.
Good morning.
What's your reaction?
Well, maybe they lie, maybe they don't lie, but they sure get a lot wrong. By my count, this is CNN's 5th blown bombshell related to Donald Trump. The first was when CNN said that Comey will not say what Donald Trump said he'd say, that Trump is not under investigation. They messed up when they said Scaramucci was connected to the Russians. They said that Donald Trump Jr. knew about the WikiLeaks ahead of time, which turned out to be bogus. They said Michael Cohen was wiretapped. And now they said Donald Trump knew about the Trump Tower meeting in advance. All 5 bombshells, all 5 duds. CNN gets a lot wrong.
How did this happen? How are they now being accused of telling a lie?
Well, I think the reason is because there's such a velocity and direction in the press to accept any assertion that Trump did wrong, particularly with Russia. CNN and many of the media are so invested in this, wanting to get Donald Trump over Russia and collusion, that they drop their normal editorial filters and they put things on the air that they should not put it on the air. And then once something goes wrong, they refuse to acknowledge it, and what's gotten CNN into so much trouble now over the Trump knew in advance about the Trump Tower meeting with Michael Cohen saying it. they're too invested, and so they don't do their diligence.
Have they changed their story? Because originally Carl Bernstein and this Obama staffer, they co-wrote this article for CNN, and they said that their the source now we're learning was Lanny Davis, who was Michael Cohen's attorney. And he's now saying, we need to walk this back. I regret not being much clearer. What they wrote an article about was saying that Michael Cohen was willing to say that President Trump knew about that meeting with Don Jr. and the Russian attorney, when in fact now we're learning that wasn't true. So if they were just writing a story based on what their sources said, how do you avoid that if later Lanny Davis comes out and says that he was wrong and he walked it back?
I don't blame the media for getting something wrong if the source gives it to them wrong.
Correct.
But once a source gives it to you wrong, you need to acknowledge it. You need to come out and say, we relied on Lanny Davis. Lanny Davis retracted his story, and therefore CNN got it wrong. End of story. But here they're saying they have two sources. So one, they've got Lanny problems. But now the second source. My only guess is either CNN is too embarrassed to fix the reporting, or Michael Cohen is the source that CNN is hanging its hat on. And if that's the case, Michael Cohen has big problems because he told Congress the opposite, and that could be perjury if Michael Cohen said one thing to CNN and then lied to Congress.
All right, thank you for being with us and weighing in on this. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Well, remember this man's story? He faced prison time for bringing his legally owned gun into New Jersey. Then after appearing on Fox and Friends, he received a full pardon. Now he's living his dream of being a police officer. He is back to share that story with us coming up live.
All right, some quick headlines now. Former vice president candidate for vice president Al Gore wants President Trump to resign over climate change. Okay, that'll happen. Gore met with then President-elect Trump during his transition, but said he has yet to implement any of his suggestions.
My only message would be resign. I don't think he is prepared to listen to advice about the importance of clean air and clean water.
He just doesn't want to hear from you. Gore calling climate change a global emergency in his mind. And it looks like Australia is getting ready to ban Chelsea Manning, the former U.S. soldier turned classified document leaker, is set to be there in just a few days on a speaking tour. But just learned the government might not allow her entry. The Australian government will only say whether non-citizens must pass certain character requirements. Ed's got a lot of character. Hey, Ed.
Yeah, good to see you, buddy. Our viewers might remember our next guest. Stephon Josie Davis was an aspiring police officer whose career was nearly derailed after he was arrested and charged with a felony in 2013 for accidentally transporting his legally registered handgun. But after telling his story right here on Fox and Friends, he got a full pardon from New Jersey's governor in 2013. Watch.
Waking up, my attorney called me, and he told me that we'll be getting a pardon.
How do you feel?
I feel great. You know, I'm just thankful for all the support that I've been getting from you, of course, Fox News.
Well, now Stephon Josie Davis' story, and you can see him. He's gotten a little bit older. He's come full circle. He's now a deputy for the Calvert County Sheriff's Office in Maryland. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
How does it feel now to be where you are?
It's great. It's a great opportunity. I'm just thankful that Sheriff Mike Evans in Calvert County, they believed in me. My lieutenant believed in me, and it's just a great opportunity to be able to serve.
So let's just take one step back and explain to everybody what happened. In 2013, we had briefly summarized. You were an armored car driver. Yes. So you had this gun. It was registered, but you accidentally brought it into New Jersey. Explain.
Yes, I had left it in my vehicle one morning when I was supposed to be leaving for work. My little sister came into the garage, and I was just a little distracted by her. I placed it in the vehicle, put her upstairs, and I was heading to work, and I was a little bit late, and I just left and didn't put it where it needed to be.
Chris Christie was governor of New Jersey at the time. He saw this story on Fox and Friends and decided, I want to do something about it.
Yes.
What did it mean for you when you actually, were pardoned and he realized this was a mistake?
It was just a right that was corrected, and I just felt thankful that he was able to do this for me, and I was able to follow my dream. And it was just a long fight. I lost everything, and I was able to regain everything back and fulfill my dream.
So then you go to the police academy in Maryland, where I live. What was it like going through that and realizing this dream?
The academy was it was tough, but I learned community policing. They were real big on that, and I was able to get a 3.7 GPA. I was also able to get my degree, and I'm just furthering my degree now for forensic science. So more than likely I'll be going to University of Maryland.
But you're a deputy now at a time when there's a lot of anti-police rhetoric out there, and it's a tough time.
Yes.
How does that feel, and what do you hope to do to sort of bring people together so that there's not so much animosity?
I would say just build that rapport with the community. That's what we learned in the academy. You have to build that relationship within the community. You have to gain the trust of the citizens in your community. So when you have that rapport with your citizens, whatever county you work in, Calvert, where I'm at, you just have to have that relationship with them and be able to succeed. That's what I feel like you need to do.
Realizing what you had been through, when you graduated from the police academy, you get the call saying, from the sheriff in Calvert County saying you're going to be a deputy. Take me to that phone call. Take me through what was going on.
When I came in, I met with him. Sheriff Mike Evans, he really said that he heard a lot of good things about me. My Lieutenant Buckmaster that was there, he was fighting for me to get in there, and I really appreciate that. My Sergeant Cox, my Sergeant Necker, my field training officers, they're just, everybody at the department is just great. I came in there, they made me feel welcome, felt at home, and I've been receiving the best training I can receive in field training.
What's your message about getting a second chance?
It's just a blessing. I'm just going to use what I've been through and be able to help other people get through the same thing and be able to be a positive role model for the community.
You are, and we appreciate that very much. And I'll be driving the speed limit when I go through Calvert County, I promise.
Yes, sir.
All right, good to see you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right, outrage growing nationwide after a judge clears and frees 3 suspected Muslim extremists accused of running a terror training camp for kids. We're live with that stunning decision out in New Mexico. Plus, Kanye West standing by his support for the president.
He wants to be the greatest president, and he knows that he can't be the greatest president without the acceptance of the black community.
More on the comment everybody is talking about this morning, and college football season is finally here. We're kicking things off on the Fox Square with cheerleaders and a mascot tug-of-war.
All right, we are back with the Fox News Alert. Get this. 3 of the Muslim extremists accused of training children to shoot up schools at that New Mexico compound are now free.
Their charges have been dropped, and the judge is blaming the prosecutors.
Fox and Friends first co-host Rob Schmidt joins us live from the newsroom with the latest developments, and they're shocking. Good morning, Rob.
Yeah, and how this happened is probably going to anger some people. Guys, good morning to you. A simple mistake by prosecutors leads to the release of 3 of the 5 suspects arrested at that extremist compound in New Mexico. Lucas Morton, Savannah Wahaj, and Huraj Wahaj have been set free after charges against the 3 were dismissed. The DA failed to follow state rules requiring an evidentiary hearing within 10 days of the suspects being charged and jailed. That's how it happened. The other 2 suspects remain in jail on separate child abuse charges, resulting in the death of 3-year-old Abdul Ghani Wahaj, whose body was found in a search of that compound. The dead boy's father, Sidaj Wahaj, and partner, Janie LaVille, both pleaded not guilty.
Whether people are outraged or not, direct your outrage to the source of the problem in this case. And Judge McElroy said he expects the district attorney to do their job.
Well, the judge did not hold back when addressing this situation.
I'm just going to say once again that I am very disappointed. The court is being caught between very public, very shocking information and a complete failure to follow proper procedures in prosecuting a case.
You can kind of see there, he really didn't want to let them free, but he thinks he has no choice. There has been outrage in this case, of course, from the very beginning when the initial judge set bail at just $20,000. Prosecutors could still seek additional charges against the 3 who were released and then rearrest them, bring them back in. We'll see if that happens, guys. But it's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of ridiculous. Thanks, Rob. Kind of ridiculous because if they're going to go into house arrest, they need a house. They basically have nothing but, tin cans and sandbags?
Well, and the first judge had let the suspects out on the notion that maybe they were not such a threat to the community.
Which is a joke.
One child died already in their care. I think it was the 3-year-old.
Well, 2 of them are still behind bars connected with that.
Yeah.
But the 3 that
3-year-old was dead.
they were charged with abusing children, because you saw the conditions that they were living in. It was filthy. But here's the thing, the prosecutors, they had that 10-day rule, and you had to prove, you had to go before a judge, you had to have a hearing to establish probable cause. You had 10 days to do that. If they had just done their jobs, if they had done that within that 10-day window, then these suspects would still be behind bars.
You know, you're not splitting the atom. This seems like a pretty open and shut case. Ryan Morrow is with National Security Analyst, and he's been working this case, maybe even been ahead of the investigators. Listen to his reaction.
It is frightening. I mean, these three individuals, the three of the five that were leading the compound, are very dangerous. And at this moment, they have the maximum incentive to try to flee, even if they're under house arrest, or to try to carry out an attack and die, because they don't want to go to jail. If you're a jihadist, you want to die as a martyr, and they know that if they go to trial, they're going to get convicted and they're going to be locked up. So for them, the choice is try to flee or try to carry out an attack.
I just wonder if there's something extraordinary the court can do to say, because my prosecutors are knuckleheads, why should the public be put in danger?
One of the leaders of this camp talked about jihad. That was in previous court documents, number one. And number two, they were training these kids to potentially launch school shootings in the days ahead. This is serious, serious stuff.
I want to hear from the prosecutors and find out what their reason was.
Right. I don't know if the bus was going to pick them up in the compound. I think they would have to be get rides from somebody there. All right, 24 minutes before the top of the hour. Jillian, you have the news.
That's right, and a story that we've been following for days now, a very bizarre story, and we do have an update. You remember this woman, right? She was going door to door in the dead of the night with broken shackles on her wrists. Well, she was found safe. Police finding the woman's boyfriend dead inside a home, actually right around the corner from where she was going door to door. This was during a welfare check in Houston. Turns out he was suicidal and killed himself. Now, she was not found in that home. She was elsewhere. Police say the woman is a family violence victim, but are not offering any details. The chilling video set off a frantic search after the woman rang multiple doorbells at 3 o'clock in the morning. A kindergartner walks nearly 3 miles from his first day of school. He walked home all alone. He was supposed to go to an after-school program, but no one came to get him. Now his parents are demanding answers.
I want to know where did they mess up? Because they messed up big time.
5-year-old Jackson Kirby says he recognized familiar landmarks to figure out how to get home in California. The school is investigating. PETA wants to honor dead lobsters with a giant tombstone. The animal activists requesting the state of Maine build this 5-foot monument after several lobsters were killed when a semi-truck overturned. Some locals say it's too much.
What's the difference between them falling on the road and dying or being thrown in boiling hot water and we eat them every single day?
Maine's Department of Transportation hasn't commented. Kanye West reaffirming his support for President Trump during a surprise appearance on a Chicago radio station. The rapper saying the president will do whatever it takes to be great for Black Americans.
He wants to be the greatest president, and he knows that he can't be the greatest president without the acceptance of the Black community. So it's something that he's going to work towards, but we're going to have to speak to him.
So what do you think about Kanye's comments? Email us at friends@foxnews.com and let us know. Let's look at your headlines. Now let's go outside to Janice Dean, where it's been a really hot couple of days.
It is hot, but you know what? There's a cold front coming through. We're going to feel it tomorrow, but for now, it is hot and sticky, and college football season is finally here. We've got some of your favorite teams on the Fox Square team today getting ready.
Do you want to know how much Brian paid for his? He's like mini Pearl over here.
Oh, you look great.
I got to be able to return it. We don't have the budget.
$19.98 for that T-shirt.
These are official T-shirts.
You left the prompter hanging. Finish up your sentence.
Okay, for a little competition before their big games.
And we are all wearing our college gear because tomorrow is National College Colors Day.
You're doing it for 14 years, by the way.
That's right. Nicole Armentrout, she is the Vice President of Marketing for IMG, and she is here with the latest. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
What should we do tomorrow? Does that mean wear your college colors to work?
Absolutely. We are so excited to celebrate the 14th annual College Colors Day tomorrow. And we want everyone to show their spirit tomorrow on social media, wearing their colors, using hashtag College Colors Day. This is the time of the year when it's back to football. No teams have been defeated. Everyone's school spirit should be at the height. and we want everybody to show their spirit. Hashtag College Colors Day.
Are you a Gator? You went to UF?
I am not a Gator, but it's one of our partner schools, and we represent all of our partner schools.
I wanted to wear Siena College, but we gave up football in 2004. That means we've been undefeated for almost, more than a decade
What are your
now.
colors, though?
They're green, like LIU. But we're going to have a tug of war out here on Fox Square.
Right.
With all the mascots.
Today?
Yeah, right now.
Fantastic.
We need the mascots to line up.
Yeah, oh, wait a second. You have a microphone. We got to talk to these guys real quick. What's your name? Khalil, Tennessee.
Yes, of
Who do you play?
We're playing West Virginia this Saturday.
So you kick off everything this Saturday.
This Saturday, yes,
kick
sir,
off
in
college.
Charlotte.
Are you predicting victory, or you just want both teams to play hard?
Oh, victory, for
Victory,
sure.
absolutely. What's your name?
Allie.
And Allie, who do you guys play in the opening week?
Saturday, Nicholls State.
Nicholls State.
Yeah.
I'm predicting a Kansas victory.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, we have to
this
break up now, guys, into a tug of war because the mascots aren't allowed to talk.
You guys ready?
So we thought they would do something they can agree on, that they'll pull each other across the middle.
Who's going to help
What's your
Ed?
name?
My name's Michael.
Michael,
Can I get on
any
one side?
predictions here?
Oh.
All right, what do we got? We got Kansas. We got the Vols. We got Pitt. Who's on the other side?
Cincinnati?
We got West Virginia. We got the Bearcats. And we got Rutgers.
Can I cheer?
All right.
Okay, we ready?
Wait a second.
All right, one.
When I release my hand, you guys pull. There will be no survivors. Ready? Go! Good job, guys. All right, now, being that you're not wearing a headdress, can I talk to you?
Yes, sir.
All right, what does it feel like to win?
What happened?
It's amazing.
How
We
long have you
expected
trained
more
for
out
this
of you.
moment?
All my life.
All your life.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Up top. Everybody's undefeated. Ainsley, how do you feel about not playing really a role in the tug
I
of
am
war?
missing Coffee. Where is our mascot? South Carolina's mascot is not represented, but y'all are all amazing. Thank you so much for being here. You make all the football games a little bit more fun.
And you
Appreciate
know what?
it. Thank you all.
Nobody's kneeling, but they're all going to be standing.
That's right.
So
We're all
gonna be great.
standing right here. Okay, well, one state could soon require all companies to have women on their board of directors. Should that really be mandated or earned? We're going to debate that coming up.
All right, and let's give these cheerleaders their moment in the sun. They got up early. As I tell you this, President Trump's endorsement leading many candidates to primary victories. Our next guest says the Republicans are going to win in November. Jump on the Trump train. Good luck, guys. Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Good morning to you and welcome back. Some quick headlines now. California's gun laws are about to get even stricter. Lawmakers voting to raise the age of buying long guns from 18 to 21. Californians already have to be 21 to buy a handgun. The new bill heads to Governor Jerry Brown's desk, where he is expected to sign it. And turning to pot to treat pain. Anyone in Illinois can now use medical marijuana as an alternative to prescribed painkillers. The newly signed law is aimed to help curb opioid abuse, making the switch only requires a doctor's authorization. Brian.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Trump-backed candidate Ron DeSantis cruising to a victory in Tuesday night's GOP primary. It sounds familiar for GOP primary people when they get support from the president. DeSantis became the latest 2018 candidate to get a presidential push and get victory. In fact, only 2 of the 37 primary or special election candidates endorsed by the president lost. So what does this so-called Trump bump mean for the general? Here to break it down is outstanding pollster John Thomas. John, we know it helps in the primary, but in these states where the president barely won or just lost, do they have to reach across the aisle, and does the president's push help?
Good question. First of all, you're right. President Trump's endorsement in these primaries, he is the undisputed kingmaker. No question about it. You see that in California with John Cox. He elected John Cox, Ron DeSantis, etc. But looking forward to November, I would recommend it is clear. You must, if you're a Republican candidate, you've got to hug the president for one reason and one reason alone. And that's because the president has an uncanny ability to generate base turnout. And that's what these midterm elections are all about. So there's 2 things these candidates have to do. 1, hug President Trump because he'll help turn out your base. And 2, run on the Trump agenda. That's how you get those swing voters, because his agenda is incredibly popular as well.
Right. I mean, and the economy going well, not necessarily a war about to break out. So, so there's a lot to go for. But when it comes to his tone, a lot of people think that's controversial. So if something comes out and people don't like something that comes out of the White House, how do they react?
Well, look, each candidate needs to be their own candidate, right? But as far as Trump's tone, let's not forget that Trump has had the highest approval rating of nearly any Republican president ever, okay? In these midterm elections, it's about making sure that Republican voters don't stay home, and there's nobody better to generate intensity and enthusiasm than the president.
John, I want you to take a look at this board. You know these numbers, but I'll share them with the audience. Before Ron DeSantis has got the president endorsement, he was getting killed by Adam Putnam, and he was trailing by 17 points, and then we looked to see what happened. Now, I was talking to Kevin McCarthy. He's trying to urge the president to go into places where he's not popular. John McCain passes away. He was known as somebody to have town halls in hostile environments. Do you think that the president should add that wrinkle to his agenda?
I absolutely think he should, but just a quick note, I'll get to that, but a quick note on Florida. The other untold story on that Florida victory is that because of President Trump, he turned out almost 200,000 more Republicans than Democrats statewide. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, and it's credit to the president. So he has the ability to shift the turnout model, which is a good thing. But yes, President Trump is at his best when he takes his voice directly to the people. We've seen that in these special elections propelling to victory. And quite frankly, we saw that in the home stretch in 2016 when Trump made all of those whirlwind stops in those key battleground states. He absolutely should go out there and remind voters that his agenda is working for them.
It's about winning the persuadables in places where it's just 1 point in Arizona,
and by the
1
way,
point in Florida.
It's not just about Trump, although Trump is helpful. Remember, the Democrats are running, in some cases like California's 39th, they're running alleged sexual predators. They're running socialists in these districts, so it's a two-front battle there.
All right, thanks, Mr. Thomas. Todd Pyro and his road package in just a moment. Don't miss a minute.
Good morning to you and welcome back. Some quick headlines now. California's gun laws are about to get even stricter. Lawmakers voting to raise the age of buying long guns from 18 to 21. Californians already have to be 21 to buy a handgun. The new bill heads to Governor Jerry Brown's desk, where he is expected to sign it. And turning to pot to treat pain. Anyone in Illinois can now use medical marijuana as an alternative to prescribed painkillers. The newly signed law is aimed to help curb opioid abuse, making the switch only requires a doctor's authorization. Brian.
All right. Thanks, Jillian. Trump-backed candidate Ron DeSantis cruising to a victory in Tuesday night's GOP primary. It sounds familiar for GOP primary people when they get support from the president. DeSantis became the latest 2018 candidate to get a presidential push and get victory. In fact, only 2 of the 37 primary or special election candidates endorsed by the president lost. So what does this so-called Trump bump mean for the general? Here to break it down is outstanding pollster John Thomas. John, we know it helps in the primary, but in these states where the president barely won or just lost, do they have to reach across the aisle, and does the president's push help?
Good question. First of all, you're right. President Trump's endorsement in these primaries, he is the undisputed kingmaker. No question about it. You see that in California with John Cox. He elected John Cox, Ron DeSantis, etc. But looking forward to November, I would recommend it is clear. You must, if you're a Republican candidate, you've got to hug the president for one reason and one reason alone. And that's because the president has an uncanny ability to generate base turnout. And that's what these midterm elections are all about. So there's 2 things these candidates have to do. 1, hug President Trump because he'll help turn out your base. And 2, run on the Trump agenda. That's how you get those swing voters, because his agenda is incredibly popular as well.
Right. I mean, and the economy going well, not necessarily a war about to break out. So, so there's a lot to go for. But when it comes to his tone, a lot of people think that's controversial. So if something comes out and people don't like something that comes out of the White House, how do they react?
Well, look, each candidate needs to be their own candidate, right? But as far as Trump's tone, let's not forget that Trump has had the highest approval rating of nearly any Republican president ever, okay? In these midterm elections, it's about making sure that Republican voters don't stay home, and there's nobody better to generate intensity and enthusiasm than the president.
John, I want you to take a look at this board. You know these numbers, but I'll share them with the audience. Before Ron DeSantis has got the president endorsement, he was getting killed by Adam Putnam, and he was trailing by 17 points, and then we looked to see what happened. Now, I was talking talking to Kevin McCarthy. He's trying to urge the president to go into places where he's not popular. John McCain passes away. He was known as somebody to have town halls in hostile environments. Do you think that the president should add that wrinkle to his agenda?
I absolutely think he should, but just a quick note, I'll get to that, but a quick note on Florida. The other untold story on that Florida victory is that because of President Trump, he turned out almost 200,000 more Republicans than Democrats statewide. I mean, that's pretty remarkable, and it's credit to the president. So he has the ability to shift the turnout model, which is a good thing. But yes, President Trump is at his best when he takes his voice directly to the people. We've seen that in these special elections propelling to victory. And quite frankly, we saw that in the home stretch in 2016 when Trump made all of those whirlwind stops in those key battleground states. He absolutely should go out there and remind